This is 11:30 The Tiger Podcast. I am Dylan Marsh. I'm joined with AD right here.
What's going on?
Today we are going to discuss, the disappointing for, week one for LSU fans with LSU's loss to Wisconsin. It was a close game. It was a really good game, but the Tigers just didn't play well. They definitely didn't live up to the expectations. Leonard Fournette was held basically to nothing the first half. The Wisconsin defense was completely underrated. The LSU's defense was overrated, I guess you could say. They didn't give up a lot of points. They just weren't making stops on third down. They were beaten up front. They were beaten almost every aspect of the game.
Beaten up front, on the side, around town, all over the place.
So, it's just one of those games where, this is Les Miles' first loss since
His first opening day loss.
11 years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And LSU's first since 2002.
Since 2002. So, Tiger fans are not used to losing opening day. And
it didn't feel like, it didn't really set in until like the next day that LSU had actually lost.
Yeah, it was a lot of questions surrounding lots of areas of LSU. And let's go ahead and get started on the obvious one, which was
Brandon Harris.
The big question mark coming into the season during the offseason was, how's Brandon Harris going to play this year? And me personally, I was full out there thinking that Harris was going to have a so much better year. It's only one game, but this was probably one of the worst games he's played since his first start against Auburn.
And I've never really bought into the Brandon Harris hype train just this coming season. I felt that he would obviously improve from last year, but I never expected him to blow up college football world.
Yeah, well, because LSU is just like Alabama, kind of. It's maybe not just like Alabama, but they don't need to have a superstar quarterback. They just need to have a game manager.
Don't mess up.
Basically, don't mess up. Take care of the football and just throw accurate passes on third down and get the first down, which Harris was not able to do at all this game.
He looked shaky in the pocket the whole time.
I'm not going to put all the blame on Harris because the receivers weren't catching balls, but then he also a lot of times was not putting the ball right there.
He was overthrowing him.
Yeah, he was definitely not accurate. And the last play of the game with, I think it was 1st and 15.
Yeah, it was first down. They were on like the 35. They were inside the 40.
Yeah, they were definitely close to field goal range. And so I'm not putting this on Brandon Harris. I'm putting this on whoever made the play call, which was probably Cam Cameron. In my eyes, I think it would be Cam Cameron because I think Les Miles would have ran the football.
Yeah, well, you would think because he rarely ever passes the ball.
Yeah. But then, with that being said, running the football would have been a great option right there because coming into the second half, Leonard Fournette blew up.
He's picking up some steam.
Because that Wisconsin defense was tiring out, and you could see that coming because you cannot hold a guy like Leonard Fournette for very long. And another thing that you mentioned earlier, Geis only had 2 carries.
Yeah, he only
the whole
had
game.
2 carries. They only ran the ball only about 27 times in all as a team.
Yeah, wow,
and
29 carries
as a team. Yeah,
wow.
And that's pretty uncharacteristic. Of course, LSU didn't have the ball that often, so they really couldn't do too much.
Yeah, the Badgers, they had the ball for over 30 minutes the whole game. That's their total time of possession, which is they controlled that football game and they controlled
from a tempo
outcome.
standpoint. They did.
Exactly. And Fournette, he had 23 carries, which is low
for him. Yeah,
for him. 138 yards, which is also low.
And he had
for him.
He had a 6 yards per carry average.
Yeah,
I'd say he had like the most quiet 138 yards you could get.
Exactly. Well, because we're so used to him having 170-yard,
200-yard games, 2 touchdowns.
But if you put this as a running back at say like Auburn or something, it's like, whoa, he had a great game. But with Fournette, it just the hype train for Fournette is it's still there. I think Fournette's still going to have a great season. I just think the Tigers as a unit just need to come together. They need to focus on what they did wrong. The coaches need to figure out what they did wrong.
Les Miles needs to right the ship quickly because there are already people gunning for him.
Yeah, there's so many things on social media for bench Brandon Harris, fire Les Miles. Okay, what is your stance on firing Les Miles?
On Les Miles? I'm not one of the Les Miles detractors personally. I mean, he obviously makes plenty of mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. But if we did fire him, what are you going to replace him with? Is the real question that people should worry about, because he is one of the top recruiters in college football, and you're not going to be able to just go out and find another person who can bring in this kind of talent consistently.
Well, yeah, Les Miles is I read an article yesterday. I forgot which website it was, but the title said Les Miles is the worst thing that has ever happened. Or, no, I'm sorry. Les Miles is the biggest mistake to ever come to LSU. Well, if
we did have Jarrett Lee.
Well, the biggest mistake in LSU history has gotten you a national championship, has gotten you to what?
Two
national championships, and it's gotten you probably one of the best college running back we've seen in a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Multiple SEC championships.
And this is not like a type of coach where everyone hates him, like, personally. This is a guy that all the players want to play for.
Yeah, this is strictly a football decision, the reason people are after him.
Yeah. But Les Miles, I could see him. He's the head coach. So I could see him. Would you characterize him as more as a defensive coach?
I want to say he's a defensive coach, but every time our defense has been good, we've had a worthwhile defensive coordinator. It's John Chavis, Bo Pelini back in the day. And then now Aranda. Of course, Aranda doesn't look like as good a hiring as we thought it would be.
Yeah, okay. My stance on that is I think he's going to be a great hire. But
I think the defense is going to get better.
No, yeah, definitely. But the first game was against his team that he worked for last year, which I think was also to their advantage because
to LSU's or Wisconsin's?
To Wisconsin's advantage. Because as a coordinator, you don't just go to a different team and basically have a new scheme unless you have a coach like a Nick Saban that's a football genius that already has a system locked down that he's going to use for the rest of his career, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that in Les Miles. I see that, Dave Aranda, he brought his system from Wisconsin, which had Wisconsin as a top 10 defense last year,
defenses,
to LSU, and they knew what was going to come after him. And you could tell because that quarterback that Wisconsin had,
Bart Houston,
it just looked from the opening snap that he knew he wasn't phased at all.
He was a freshman, and he looked more comfortable than our junior quarterback.
And with that, the Bart Houston looked like he knew what LSU was doing, which means Wisconsin definitely knew. They're definitely used to Dave Aranda's schemes, which I'm pretty sure he used more of his schemes because he did load the box more and blitz a lot more than I usually watch. I'm not going to say I used to not watch LSU very much a couple years ago, but lately I have. And the defense just looked out of breath.
We didn't get much pressure on the quarterback at all the whole game. That was supposed to be one of our strong suits, is our defensive line.
And that offensive line for Wisconsin held up great. The running game for Wisconsin was great.
Clemont had 86 yards. They didn't really blow me out the water with their performance. They were extremely consistent. They did what you needed them to do.
Exactly. Which
especially against the LSU defense, it made it more impressive. They controlled
the ball for over 30 minutes of the game. And that's what you have to do. Keep the ball out of Leonard Fournette's hands. Keep the ball out of
make that defense tired.
Yes. And that's when the game started getting really good, was towards the end with the defensive battle, because both teams were getting tired, and it looked for a while that LSU was just starting to
get the momentum back.
Yeah, they're getting the momentum back, and I've become an LSU fan, which I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago, and I have now. And when I saw Brandon Harris,
it's very hectic.
When I saw him go for a play action on 1st and 15 with 50 seconds left?
Yeah, it was about 57, I think.
My first thought was, why? And when he threw the ball and I saw it got intercepted, I think that was the first time my heart ever sank whenever I saw LSU lose. And It was a heartbreaking loss.
And
you
it's
saw
not,
it on Harris's face. You know he's hearing what we are saying about him right now.
That's one thing I liked about. That's actually one thing I applaud him for. Is you could see on his face when he went to that bench, he was upset and he was mad at himself. If he would have just went back and laid back and was just, well, it's whatever, next game, then that would say something different about his character. But the fact that he is truly mad at himself, that shows a lot about him as a player.
He's the hometown boy here in Bossier City
From Parkway.
but he's a great kid all around. He loves the game of football, and you could see it on his face after he threw that interception. He knows he's carrying this team on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think he has too much pressure on him.
He knows he is the part that's missing for LSU right now, and I don't know what it feels like, but I have a feeling it just kills you on the inside.
And I think they actually threw the ball a lot more than you would think for an LSU team. Like, even though he didn't perform well at all, they threw the ball 21 times, which for LSU normally sits in about the 15 to 17 throw range. But for them to throw it that many times, they're trying to make him do more in the offense.
Yeah, and if you look at the receiving statistics, where was Malachi Dupree? He only had 3 receptions for 24 yards.
Well, he only completed 12 passes, so that's about a third of the passes.
Which, like I was saying, his accuracy was not there. His underthrowing, throwing behind.
Overthrown.
Everywhere
you could throw, but completion.
But whenever he did connect, let's see, Malachi Dupree averaged 8 yards a catch with his 3 catches. Trevon Durrell he averaged 10 yards with his 5 receptions. And then Leonard Fournette had 3 with 38 yards. He averaged 12.7 yards per catch, which they were throwing the ball downfield more than they would with their traditional short pass game.
And I feel that's the problem. Like you were just saying, how the people that caught the ball were Durrell and Dupree and Fournette. They have to spread the ball out more because the only people getting the ball are big name guys. You see, if there's all the attention on those guys, you got to throw the ball somewhere else. And I'm surprised that Geis finished with 0 receptions, which is another shocker to me because as much as they use their running backs in the passing game.
Yeah, David Geis was I was shocked to not see him. You would think that they would use him because
it's a change of pace back.
Well, Geis is a running back that would be a superstar at any other team. Like he would be that team's star.
He's like a McCafferty, Darren Sproles to me. Like he reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles.
Yeah, but when you have Leonard Fournette in front of you,
you're not going to get much work.
Yeah, which it shows part of his loyalty, his commitment to LSU of not wanting to transfer. Because yes, he's going to be behind Fournette. But if Fournette leaves,
I think next year it's going to be Geis.
He'll have 2 years eligibility left, Geis?
Yeah, but I think he's a sophomore. Yes.
Yeah, so he's going to have 2 years eligibility left. He's waiting his turn. But Geis is, when Fournette leaves, we're gonna have a great running back right after him.
Which is something you can always say about LSU. They always have great running backs.
They always have great running backs.
Well, it's always the missing piece.
Middle linebackers, but quarterbacks always
DBU, defensive back university, always set there.
Yeah, you look back to the championship game against Bama. What was the problem there? The quarterback situation.
Jordan Jefferson was atrocious. There's almost words you can't even use to describe how bad he was.
Some things you can't say on the radio.
Yes.
Well, LSU will 99.9% sure that they will bounce back next week as they face Jacksonville State.
I'd go and say 98 just because it seems like things can't go LSU's way now.
This is going to be their little warm-up game.
Little cupcake.
But they play Jacksonville State at home, of course, at 7:30 Saturday.
It's the Death Valley opener. Fans are going to be rocking.
And hopefully that'll be a warm-up game because their very next game is Mississippi State. So,
I like the Jacksonville game because this is also the first game in Baton Rouge since all the flooding. Also,
yeah. So
the fans are going to be hyped. They're going to be emotional. The team's going to be emotional.
But I still have a great feeling about LSU this year. About this. Sorry,
the season
this year, because I feel like the flooding gives them something more to play for, besides just all this national championship talk. Because I don't know if y'all watched College Game Day on Saturday morning, and they had a special talking about the floods and what the people who are suffering, who lost their homes, who lost family, who lost pets, who've lost everything due to a flood. That's when LSU went to the biggest shelter in Baton Rouge. After that, how much joy they brought to people there, and how they are saying LSU is a way of life for them right now. It's a way. It's a ray of hope. And
Yeah, it's something to
it's
hold on to.
Exactly. And
when they lose everything else, this is what they have left.
And with Les Miles being the motivator, I know he is. I don't think this game's going to end the season, especially because I don't think LSU fans should worry about possibly they could still make the playoff.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
especially with all the teams in front in their schedule.
You see, they have Alabama at home, Ole Miss at home.
I think Florida's at home.
No, Florida's at Florida.
Florida's at Florida.
But I think LSU's definitely going to get back on track. I think this Jacksonville State team is going to come in there.
I do want
ready to go, but LSU's definitely going to put a whooping on.
Yeah, I do want to pose one question, talking about the rest of the season. What do you think would be the breaking point for them firing Les Miles?
The breaking point, I think,
like if it was going to be during the season as opposed to end of the season, what would be the thing that would push them over the edge?
Okay, repeat that. Okay, repeat what you just said.
As opposed to them during it at the end of the season, what would be the breaking point to making them do it during the season?
During the season?
And we're going to go ahead and say that we beat Jacksonville State, so don't say losing to Jacksonville State.
No, I'm not going to say that because I don't think that's ever going to happen. I would say it might be the game after this. Maybe not fire him right there, but definitely
if we lose to Mississippi State.
If you lose to Mississippi State, because you saw who they just lost to.
South Alabama
at home. The post-Prescott era in Mississippi State has began, and
very poor note.
It's going downhill fast. So I say either if we lose to Mississippi State or have an off game because it's at home, I think it's going to bring the question up inside the program and not just outside like it is right now. But then I think also losing to
because after
Arkansas,
Jacksonville State, the next 4 games are all SEC games. And if you go 1-3 or 2-2 in SEC play,
yeah, I think it's definitely only going to be able to lose 1 or 2 SEC games. If lose more than that, I think they're going to.
If this is a 5-loss, 4-loss season,
to doing that last year, I don't think the players wanting him is going to be enough like it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
But especially because Fournette's going to be gone, most likely.
Most likely,
he might stay. You never know. But with him being gone, go ahead and change coaches, why not? And so
who do you think the replacement would be?
See, that's the thing. LSU's got so much money. It's going to be a big-time gig.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a big-time name. I could possibly see.
I'd heard stuff about Lane Kiffin, that's a coach that people are wanting just because of his offensive. I think we'd be focused too much on offense, and I don't want that. I don't want to switch from being a great defense and a mediocre offense to being a great offense and a poor defense.
That was his downfall at USC.
And I don't want to have a poor defense.
Yeah, Kiffin's downfall at USC was definitely that. That's what caused him, basically, him and his attitude, his ego, got him left at the airport behind all the players and got fired in the airport. I wouldn't see that. I would see, and I don't think Kiffin would want to be a head coach again. I think he's really happy where he's at.
He's finding his stride.
Yeah, he's killing it right now in Bama.
I mean, he'll probably get opportunities, but will he take them? I see what you're saying.
I could see Hugh Freeze from Ole Miss being a person LSU.
Really?
Yeah. Because
leaving behind what he's got started at Ole Miss.
But
because I understand LSU is a little bit higher prestige of a school than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss has been on the rise the past couple years.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just.
I know what you mean, but I think just they can pay so much more, and he's got Ole Miss started, but you've seen these. It's a big time school. It's always a top 10 recruiting class school, but it's just one of those. It's Ole Miss, and then LSU. When you hear LSU, you obviously think football. When you hear Ole Miss, you think Blindside. Well, at least in my head, that's
you think
what
Michael
it is.
Orr?
I think Michael Orr, but especially he might want to go ahead and get out of all that stuff he's in the middle of right now with the Jeremy Tunsil situation, all that stuff.
And he's taking it head on.
Oh yeah, he is, which is a sign of him wanting to stay. But I'm just saying I could see him as an option that LSU would want.
'Cause I know last year there were talks of Jimbo Fisher, but Jimbo Fisher didn't want to leave Florida State, which I would. Especially the state they're in now.
Yeah. Well, in our next podcast, we're definitely going to talk about the top games of the week, and last night's Ole Miss Florida State games definitely in the top 5. So, all right, yeah. Don't forget Jacksonville State 7:30 Saturday. LSU
in Death Valley.
In Death Valley, LSU's finally back home. Is going to be on ESPNU 7:30 p.m.
Be there, be square.
I ain't going to that game.
I had to say it.
All right, y'all. Have a blessed day.